Hey friends, welcome back to the shop. So recently I was doing some work on putting together the rear end of the car from accident that I had with roadkill. And upon peeling the wheel off, because a portion of that project was replacing the wheel well liners, figured out that I've got a stripped out stud. So the lug stud itself was stripped out, the lug nut was stripped out. So we need to go ahead and replace this in order to get everything back together. So I'm going to walk through the steps on how to do that for this, which is a 2016, but it should be the same for all WRXs 2015 plus. So first we need to do is actually take off the brake calipers, and then we'll take off the rotor, and then we'll rotate the hub around in order to access the clearing to beat out the stud itself. So let's get that started. This is going to be a size 14 millimeter for the brake caliper. And there is a 14 millimeter bolt for the carrier itself. There's one up top and down on the bottom. I try to hold the carrier while I'm taking the bolt out, so that way everything just doesn't fall and my pads go all over the place. Now that we've got the brakes off, the rotor's going to have to come off. Sometimes you're lucky enough to where you can wiggle it and you can get it to come off on its own. Sometimes you're not lucky. So what is best to be able to do, you have two little threaded holes here on the rotor that if you have a bolt, thread them on in, and with regular socket, you should be able to pop the rotor free. Oh, that's not good. Fuck. That's why. Okay, so the rears, in addition to having irregular pads on the outside, you have shoes on the inside of the rotor. And in order to take these shoes off, you have two springs. So you have two springs here on the top, one on each side. and they're hooked right on here on each side. You'll pull these springs off, that one and this one, and then this will come off. You have another spring on the bottom that latches in here. Then, of course, your emergency brake cable. I just set these down here, and then I'm going to rotate the hub assembly around to where you see the indentions on each side. That'll give me enough clearance to actually beat this stud out with a hammer. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to inspect my other studs to make sure they're in good condition. We picked up, thanks to my dear Dana, picked up 2 new studs from Subaru. Beautiful. We're going to slide this on in. From here, the ideal way to do this, since we don't have any ability to press it in from the back or hammer it in from the back, is to find a nut that will go onto this with a washer and then tighten that nut down to where it pulls the stud through and seats it properly. All right, since we did not have a standard nut to go on these lugs, what we're going to do is just stack up washers on here and actually use one of the lug nuts. So we'll get that started. And all right, since of course the hub is going to spin, we can't put our parking brake back on. Dana had the idea of using the breaker bar to stop the hubs from spinning. So thank you for that ingenious idea, babe. And we'll see if we can get this pulled in now. And see if we can get this to continue to seat itself and hold the hub in place. Good? Yep. Okay. And she all comes down.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, what I thought earlier was just a nail in the back of the brakes was actually one of the retaining pins for the shoes. You see the difference? This one holds these clips on for each side of the shoes itself. The edges are sheared off on this one. So somebody is going to be making a trip back to Subaru and buying two, because the more that I look at this one is actually a little bit bent. So I'm going to go ahead and replace both of these to make sure that we've got good components on the inside. So no brake failures. So the journey continues on this.
A few moments later.
So I was able to pick up 2 pins from Subaru and go ahead and get the the retaining clips put back in. Recommendation, if you have to end up replacing those and take apart the shoes, it's ideal to have a second person with you so they can push in that clamp, and then you can push the pin through the back and spin it. If you're just by yourself, it's going to be a big pain in the ass. So I've got that in, I've got the rotor on. Now the only thing to do that is left is just put the brake pad carrier back on and the caliper bolted on down. That's it. So let's get it done. All right, all set. Thanks, everybody. Good seeing you guys again. Take care.